August 29, 2001, in Jacksonville, Florida. Dwight Baker, a respected real estate agent from South Carolina, and his wife are suddenly arrested. The tight-knit community is shaken, but what they're about to uncover is even more disturbing than they could have imagined. This isn't just a crime. It's the tip of a massive 12-year-long conspiracy involving monopoly pieces, the Mafia, and McDonald's. Dwight Baker? He's just a pawn in a far larger game. What began as a harmless promotion spiraled into one of the biggest heists in history. Even worse, you may have unknowingly been part of it. When you think of McDonald's, the golden arches, Big Macs, and the smell of fries come to mind, not fraud, mafia ties, or a mastermind stealing millions. But that's exactly what happened. In 1987, McDonald's launched the Monopoly game promotion, offering everything from free burgers to luxury cars. The catch? The rare high-value pieces were hidden in the food packaging. People flocked to McDonald's, believing every meal was a shot at striking it rich, unaware the game was rigged from the start. The man behind it all was Jerome Jacobson. On the surface, he was a former cop with a respectable job running security at Simon Marketing, the company overseeing McDonald's promotions. He seemed like the perfect candidate to ensure fairness. But appearances were deceiving. Born in 1943, Jacobson had dreams of the military, but after being rejected by the Marines, he became a police officer in Florida. A serious injury ended his law enforcement career early. But Jacobson wasn't one to stay down. He moved to Atlanta, landing a job at Simon Marketing, unknowingly setting the stage for one of the biggest criminal schemes in U.S. history. Simon Marketing was responsible for overseeing McDonald's promotions, and Jacobson was tasked with protecting the integrity of the game. But he saw an opportunity to exploit the system, using his position to steal the rare winning pieces that promised massive prizes. Jacobson's plan was simple: steal the rare pieces and sell them on a black market. As head of security, he knew exactly where the winning pieces were stored. He began distributing them to a network of criminals, including Mafia members. Jacobson's first victim? His brother-in-law, Marvin Brown, who received a $25,000 winning ticket. Jacobson's network expanded, and he started offering winning tickets to business owners and criminals across the country. One key player was Jerry Colombo, an Italian-American with Mafia ties, who helped Jacobson build a criminal empire. Jacobson wasn't just giving away tickets, he carefully selected winners, instructing them to hide their identities and claim their prizes under fake names. He built a system to launder the stolen money, ensuring it couldn't be traced back to him. With the Mafia's expertise in money laundering, Jacobson's scheme flourished. He wasn't just a man looking for a quick payoff, he was now controlling a massive criminal network, all at the expense of innocent consumers. By the time McDonald's discovered the fraud, it was too late. Jacobson had already stolen millions, and the damage was done. McDonald's had trusted Simon Marketing to oversee the promotion, never suspecting their very system had been corrupted from within. Jacobson flaunted his wealth, buying expensive cars and property, all while millions of people unknowingly participated in his massive con. As Jacobson's criminal empire grew, so did his audacity. What started as a small operation, stealing a few winning tickets, quickly escalated into a nationwide conspiracy involving countless accomplices, all unknowingly complicit in his fraud. Jacobson had mastered the art of playing both sides. As the trusted security officer at Simon Marketing, he appeared to be safeguarding McDonald's biggest promotion. But in reality, he was manipulating the system for his own gain. His role gave him the perfect cover, allowing him to remain in the shadows while controlling the flow of winning tickets. As his network expanded, Jacobson needed more people to carry out his plan. He recruited anyone who could help distribute the winning tickets: family members, business owners, even Mafia members. Jacobson soon approached local businesses with irresistible offers: meat suppliers, car dealerships, all eager to claim a piece of the prize. The more people Jacobson roped in, the faster his network spread. What made Jacobson's operation so dangerous was his ability to control every aspect of it. He didn't just sell winning tickets. He carefully placed them into the hands of people who wouldn't question their origins. By spreading out the winners, he kept the operation under the radar. The demand for these winning tickets was overwhelming. People were willing to pay huge sums for a chance at the big prizes, even mortgaging their homes to buy a ticket. For them, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But for Jacobson, it was a business, a way to get rich without anyone noticing. Jacobson's network grew further when he teamed up with Jerry Colombo, a man with Mafia connections who ran clubs and casinos. Colombo's expertise in illicit dealings helped Jacobson expand the operation, turning it into a nationwide black market. The Mafia's involvement brought a level of sophistication Jacobson couldn't have achieved alone. They knew how to launder money, stay low profile, and avoid law enforcement. By the early 90s, Jerome Jacobson had become a well-oiled machine in the art of stealing McDonald's Monopoly-winning tickets. With connections that stretched from the streets of Brooklyn to South Carolina, Jerry Colombo was the ideal accomplice. Jacobson understood that to keep his scam running smoothly and avoid detection, he needed someone who could recruit people to claim the fraudulent prizes, handle the payouts, and most importantly, ensure the trail was covered. The Mafia's involvement added a layer of sophistication and security to Jacobson's operation that made it even harder to trace. A web of criminals recruited by Colombo, designed to act as winners for the stolen prizes. Jacobson would hand over the high-value winning tickets to his associates, who would then find unsuspecting individuals to claim the prizes on their behalf. These winners were often paid a small fraction of the total prize, but Jacobson and his criminal network pocketed the rest. For instance, a $25,000 prize might come with a service fee of $10,000 or more, which went straight into Colombo's pockets, with Jacobson taking his cut as well. As Jacobson's network expanded, the scale of the fraud became enormous. One of the first major operations involved sending a relative of Colombo, named William Fisher, to claim a $1 million prize in New Hampshire. The scheme worked flawlessly. Fisher presented himself as the lucky winner, and Jacobson's criminal syndicate took their share of the prize. But as more and more people became involved, Jacobson's criminal empire grew. The network expanded beyond just family members and close associates to include street criminals, con artists, and even people with serious criminal backgrounds who were more than willing to risk everything for a chance at the stolen rewards. The scam started as a few isolated incidents, but quickly morphed into an ongoing, well-coordinated operation. Jacobson and Colombo's connection to the Mafia meant that the stolen tickets could be sold in an underground network of buyers. As the operation spread across the country, the fraud became even more complex and sophisticated, with criminals in different states working together, covering their tracks, and ensuring that the fraud remained undetected. But with each new person Jacobson recruited, the risks grew. The larger the operation became, the harder it was to keep everything hidden. Jacobson, ever the meticulous planner, managed to stay one step ahead for a while, but the cracks were beginning to show. More and more high-value prizes were being claimed in the same few locations, and the chances of it being just a coincidence were becoming slimmer by the day. Jacobson knew that if this kept up, someone would eventually start putting the pieces together. The stakes grew higher with each passing year, and the pressure was mounting. The fraud wasn't just a few stolen tickets, it had become a full-fledged criminal enterprise. Jacobson wasn't just skimming a few dollars, he was profiting from millions. The fraud was no longer just about manipulating McDonald's system for personal gain. It had evolved into a money laundering operation, with millions of dollars moving through Jacobson's network. Yet, despite the growing risks, Jacobson and Colombo pushed forward. They had become so confident in their ability to keep the operation hidden that they didn't consider the consequences of their growing web of deceit. The people involved in the scam were getting bolder, and the operation was becoming harder to maintain. The FBI was about to get involved, but Jacobson and his associates had no idea how close they were to being caught. As the FBI began piecing together the evidence, Jacobson had no clue that the investigation was well underway. The more he expanded his network and grew the operation, the closer he came to his own downfall. He thought he was invincible, but the fraud, like all scams, would eventually collapse under its own weight. In March 2000, the first real breakthrough came. An informant reached out to the FBI, dropping a bombshell. The McDonald's Monopoly game wasn't random at all. It was rigged. The informant claimed that a group of people, led by someone named T.O. Jerry, was behind the fraud, and that Jerome Jacobson was the mastermind. This revelation hit the FBI like a lightning bolt. What was thought to be a harmless game was actually a meticulously planned fraud that had been going on for over a decade. The agents in Jacksonville, Florida, took the tip seriously. At first, they didn't know how deep the fraud ran, but as they began their investigation, the scale of the operation became alarmingly clear. Jacobson's involvement wasn't a simple case of theft. It was a full-blown criminal empire, one that spanned across states and involved people from all walks of life. Mafia members, street criminals, and even seemingly innocent Monopoly winners who had unknowingly become pawns in Jacobson's game. The investigation quickly transformed into Operation Final Answer, named after the popular game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And it was the perfect title. Once the fraud was exposed, there would be no turning back. The FBI started connecting the dots: stolen tickets, mafia ties, and millions of dollars laundered through Jacobson's network. But they still needed the smoking gun, hard evidence to make a solid case that would stand up in court. The FBI set up a sting operation, reaching out to past winners, especially those who had claimed large prizes. Some were already suspicious about how they had won and agreed to cooperate with the investigation. The agents began interviewing these winners, trying to piece together the truth of how they had really claimed their prizes, and what they uncovered was chilling. One by one, people began cracking. Gloria Brown, one of the winners who had claimed a substantial prize, was caught in a lie. When asked about the McDonald's she had visited, her answers were inconsistent. The FBI had her on camera, sweating and fumbling for words, clearly realizing she wasn't the innocent winner she claimed to be. This was the breakthrough the agents had been waiting for. But the truth didn't stop there. As the investigation expanded, other witnesses came forward, and their testimony confirmed the FBI's worst fears. The scheme wasn't just a minor scam. It was massive, far larger than anyone had imagined. The stolen tickets weren't simply random acts of theft. They were part of an organized criminal network, with Jacobson pulling the strings from behind the scenes. It was clear that Jacobson hadn't just stolen a few tickets. He had orchestrated a well-planned operation with hundreds of stolen prizes being sold and claimed by the wrong people. With the evidence stacking up, the FBI was poised to make their move. Jacobson, still unaware that the net was tightening around him, had no idea that his days of running the scam were numbered. The investigation had reached its tipping point, and the clock was ticking. Would they catch Jacobson and his network before they could escape, or would they slip through the cracks, forever free from justice? The final showdown was fast approaching, and Jacobson had no idea that the end of his criminal empire was near. The FBI's investigation was nearing its final stages, and Jacobson's empire was about to collapse. Months of hard work, intelligence gathering, and tracking down key witnesses had all led to this moment. But what no one could predict was that Jerome Jacobson, once the mastermind behind this massive fraud, was about to make a fatal error that would bring everything crashing down. By the summer of 2001, the FBI had gathered enough evidence to take action. They had their smoking gun, a detailed trail of stolen tickets, witnesses who had cracked under pressure, and financial records that tied Jacobson directly to the scam. But Jacobson had grown increasingly confident, believing he could outsmart the authorities one last time. He had no idea that the net was closing in, and that his time was running out. With everything in place, the FBI launched a coordinated raid. On July 22, 2001, the agents stormed in, arresting key figures involved in the fraud, including Dwight Baker, the real estate agent who had unknowingly been part of Jacobson's network. But the biggest catch of all was Jacobson himself. By this point, he was completely unaware that the investigation had reached its final stages. He had spent over a decade perfecting the scam, convinced he had covered all his tracks. Yet in one swift move, the FBI dismantled his entire operation. The investigation had started with a simple tip-off and had ballooned into a nationwide operation that spanned multiple states. Jacobson, who had carefully orchestrated every aspect of the fraud, suddenly found himself in the crosshairs of the law. His empire was crumbling, and all those years of meticulous planning had come to an end. For McDonald's, the fallout was immediate and severe. The company, which had long prided itself on its brand integrity and customer trust, was forced to deal with the public relations nightmare of the McMillions scandal. The company had to pay millions in restitution to those affected by the fraud, offering compensation to customers who had unknowingly participated in the rigged game. Simon Marketing, the company responsible for managing the promotion, also faced a catastrophic collapse, as it became clear that they had been deeply complicit in the scam. Jacobson's arrest was just the beginning of the legal battles to come. His network of accomplices, including Mafia figures like Jerry Colombo, were also arrested and charged with their roles in the fraud. As the investigation expanded, more and more members of the criminal ring were brought to justice. Some received prison sentences, others fines, and still others were forced to make restitution. But despite the legal consequences, the damage was done. Jacobson's once promising career as a security expert and a trusted professional in the world of promotions was destroyed. He would never recover from the scandal. The true victims of this massive fraud, however, were the unsuspecting McDonald's customers who thought they were simply participating in a fun game. They had no idea that they were pawns in a criminal scheme. Many of them had their lives affected by the fraudulent prizes that were never meant to be won by them, and the emotional toll of having been deceived for so long was devastating. Jacobson's fall from grace also took down the reputation of McDonald's, whose image had been built on trust, fairness, and a promise of quality. McDonald's had to completely reevaluate how it ran its promotions, strengthening its security measures, and introducing new protocols to ensure something like this would never happen again. By the end of 2001, Jacobson and several of his co-conspirators had been sentenced to prison. The criminal enterprise he built had cost McDonald's millions and ruined lives, but it also exposed how easily a system built on trust could be exploited. As for Jacobson, his life would never be the same. His greed and arrogance had led him to destroy everything he had built. He would spend the next several years behind bars, a cautionary tale for anyone who thought they could outsmart the system. The McMillions scandal is a powerful reminder that even the most seemingly innocent things, a game, a promotion, a chance to win big, can be manipulated for personal gain. It shows the lengths to which people will go to get rich, and the devastating consequences that can follow when greed takes over. Jacobson's empire may have collapsed, but the lessons learned from his downfall will resonate for years to come. So, what's the takeaway from this story? It's a cautionary tale about the fragility of trust, the ease with which systems can be manipulated, and the unpredictable consequences of deceit. Jacobson thought he could get away with it forever, but in the end, the truth always catches up. If this story left you shocked, curious, or even questioning the next promotion you encounter, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into real-life conspiracies, scams, and mysteries. Thanks for watching, and remember, there's always more beneath the surface than we realize.